Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order, and we begin with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island, and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island, and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We will now have a moment of silent reflection, followed by the playing of our national anthem. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. If we can begin with the adoption of our agenda for the November 25th, 2025 regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Regis-Bagnola, supported by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? And that carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? There being none. An adoption of the minutes of the meeting to consider and the regular meeting of council held November 10th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Segan, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? And that carries. Mayor's comments. So just a few. It's been another inspiring week here in the town of LaSalle, and I want to share a few important updates and celebrations happening across our community. First, I want to recognize the incredible generosity shown through the LaSalle Firefighters Association LaSalle Gives Back 2025 campaign. Thanks to the kindness of our residents, the initiative raised $72,834.39 this year. $67,834.39 has been donated to St. Andrew's Anglican Church, the community food bank, supporting families who rely on its services year-round. And then $5,000 was donated to the LaSalle Hangout for Youth, ensuring our local youth continue to have a safe and supportive space. So thank you to everyone who donated, volunteered, and helped spread the word. Your compassion truly does make a difference in our community. And thank you again to LaSalle Fire and the team for hosting this and putting this on for our community. We are entering a busy and exciting stretch for our municipality. Budget sessions will take place on Thursday, November 27th and Friday, November 28th, if required. They begin at 9 a.m. here in council chambers, and these meetings are open to the public. And for anyone who cannot attend in person, they will be streamed live on the town's YouTube channel. I'm also thrilled to invite everyone to the grand opening of The Loop at LaSalle Landing on Friday, November 28th from 6 to 9 p.m. We will hold a ribbon cutting ceremony at 6:30 p.m. followed by a community skate. Community groups are encouraged to join in, and we hope they do, and wearing their team colors, uniforms, or anything that showcases their organizations. And if you have a mascot, bring them along for the added fun. Fun details can be found on our town's website. And then this weekend also marks the start of the Holiday Lights Heritage Nights at the Event Center. So we're already doing that here at the Civic Center, which is our lights, but at the Event Center, there will be events Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So Fridays from 6 to 9, Saturday, November 29th, it starts from 3 to 9, which is family-friendly activities, entertainment, and festive holiday market. On Sundays will be from 11 to 4, and it's holiday crafts, a visit with Santa, roaming characters, and another chance to browse the market. So any more information on either of those two locations, please visit our website. There's lots of information and lots of fun things to do this holiday season. Also, looking ahead, don't forget to get your tickets for the Pancake Breakfast with Santa and Council, not just the mayor, it's Council, Saturday, December 6th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Event Center. Tickets must be purchased in advance, so please check the town's website for details. As always, just a thank you to our residents, our volunteers, our community groups, and partners who continue to make LaSalle welcoming and vibrant. I look forward to seeing many of you at these upcoming events as we officially ring in the holiday season together, so thank you. We have no public meetings and or hearings, no presentations or delegations. We're going to move into staff reports, starting with item 1, which is consideration of a future property standards bylaw. Our supervisor of bylaw enforcement will present this, Mr. Sassine.
Good evening, Mayor Meloche and Council. I appear before you this evening with 3 bylaw enforcement matters for Council's consideration. The first item is a report for consideration of a future property standards bylaw. The intent of the report is to provide Council with a clear understanding of how such a bylaw would support the town's goals of maintaining safe, clean, and well-managed neighborhoods, as well as preserving and ensuring the safety and integrity of residential buildings and properties. A dedicated bylaw would significantly enhance the town's ability to enforce property maintenance standards effectively and consistently. Thank you.
Short and sweet. All right. Members of council, do you have any questions regarding the property standards bylaw? Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Welcome, Rob. I just have a question because for many years, when we would get complaints through bylaw about messy yards or things like that, a lot of times we tell them we have a clean yard bylaw, but it doesn't necessarily cover what a property standard bylaw. Can you give me a little idea of where the overlap is there? What types of things would this cover that our current bylaw would not cover?
Excellent question. Through you, Your Worship. The difference between a clean yard bylaw deals with the yard itself, so long grass, any type of hazards that are found, weeds, noxious weeds, things of that nature. The property standards bylaw focuses on public safety with regards to the structural integrity of our structures. So if there's an issue with a roof that's caving in, if there's missing eaves troughs and gutters and downspouts that may adversely affect, stormwater management, things of that nature. Sometimes you drive by and you notice that there would be a property that has tieback or the wrap around the building, but no exterior cladding. And the property standards bylaw would address that to ensure that a weather-tight exterior cladding is installed on those properties for aesthetics purposes, but also for the integrity of the building as well. So it deals with the structural stability of the structures, being residential, commercial, industrial. That doesn't, and it also affects accessory structures. So dilapidated sheds and garages of that nature as well would be included in the property standards bylaw.
Thank you very much. So I assume you'll be working closely with our CBO who has come to support you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Sassine. Just one question. I had a person ask me about this. They said, I'm working on, and again, I realize that we're not there yet, but so they asked me to ask. I'm working on my house. It's wrapped in wonderful Home Depot external wrap. I break my arm. I can't get to it. Will there be some flexibility? I hope there would be in addressing circumstances that are unique. I understand the intent of the bylaw. I just want to make sure that this one resident gets the response that I believe you're going to say. Thank you, sir.
Excellent question. Through you, Your Worship. Yes, we would definitely work with every property owner to ensure that they have ample time to complete it, taking into consideration personal matters, illness, and other things that happen in life. So there's definitely a give and take, and there's timelines that we work with the property owners in order to ensure that we do get voluntary compliance.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's what I figured he was going to say, but I wanted him to make sure that I didn't misspeak to the resident. Thank you.
Well, let's hope the resident doesn't break their arm. He did. Oh, get better soon. Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick comment or question. neighbors that have a vacant house or residents next to them, would this help speed up the process to address some of those issues? Or is it kind of similar to the same process we have now, where we'd be able to act a lot faster moving toward cleaning these up or addressing them?
Another excellent question. Through your worship, yes, this would definitely speed it up. So we would come, in the bylaw, it would actually state if a house is vacant for X amount of days, that the house, we would terminate the utilities to the house and have the house boarded up if there's a safety concern. So we do want to address those issues where the houses are, have been vacated, are derelict, and potentially are a haven for, unruly behavior. So we want to make sure that we address that as well. So that will be covered as well in the bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Recommendations that the report of the Supervisor of Bylaw Enforcement dated October 17th, 2025, PD-41-2025, regarding consideration of a future property standards bylaw be received, and that council direct administration to prepare a draft property standards bylaw for review at a future meeting of council. Moved by Councillor Reno, support by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? And that carries. Item 2, back to you, Mr. Sassine, with the use of parks and open spaces bylaw.
Thank you, through your worship. The second item is the use of parks and open space bylaw for council's consideration. The use of parks and open space bylaw was a collaboration between various departments, including Culture and Recreation, Public Works, Parks, Legal Services, and LaSalle Police. The implementation of a use of parks and open space bylaw will enhance public enjoyment and ensure parks are used for their intended purpose, promoting a pleasant experience for all visitors and maximizing the community enjoyment of the space. There was some last-minute changes that we did make. So I will point out that after some further discussions with my colleagues in those departments, a few changes have been made and not reflected in the published version of the bylaw that before you. I will direct you, those changes include section 5.51, or I, should read light, build, or stoke a fire or bonfire unless authorized by a written agreement with the town. We have removed permit, as a permit does not exist for this activity. Section 5.5 II should read, use a barbecue, whether it uses charcoal, briquette, or a propane tank unless authorized by a written agreement with the town. Again, we have removed permit, as a permit does not exist for this activity. And next is section 5.11 II should read, use loudspeakers or sound amplifier unless authorized by a written agreement. We have removed without a permit and replaced it with written agreement, which accurately reflects the approval process that's already in place. And lastly, section 5.11 III is play any musical instrument or direct the playing thereof, other than a non-amplified string instrument without a permit, has been removed entirely as it conflicts with our current noise bylaw, which addresses that behavior. So those are the 4 changes. They're minor in nature, but we are obligated to make you aware because it does vary from the published version before you. And that's everything. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Councillor Segan, then Deputy Mayor Capetta.
Through you, Mayor Melange, to Mr. Sassine. At 7.2, organized sports. By definition, by a group or organization, a pre-planned activity. Sometimes policies or rules that are new have unintended consequences, and I just wanted to be sure that that's not the case here in this section. If a group of friends or families want to have a soccer game on a field or pickup kind of group, is that considered organized activity, even though they pre-plan it?
Thank you for the question. Through your worship, we determine an organized activity to be a team event, not a pickup or a family-oriented event. So, for example, if a sports team from Windsor, if Windsor happens to close their parks because of weather or for whatever reason, we don't want other sports teams to come to our facilities and use our facilities without paying for that service. So we want to ensure that the integrity of the registration and the process of permitting and written agreements are held together. So it would be organized activities such as that. So any family type events or any of those things obviously would be exempt from that. And again, it's the officer's discretion, whoever's responding to that call.
Further, so some sports teams do dry land training outside of season, and they are an organized team, so would they still be able to do that?
That would,
For instance, hockey on a field somewhere outside.
through your worship. So any type of activity that they would have to deal with culture and recreation to make sure that they have the proper approvals in place, and if the park is open. A lot of times we want to ensure that the park is open. Sometimes the parks are closed for whatever reason, or that's outside the service. We want to make sure that the parks are safe from damage, and they're not utilizing those parks before the intended time that the park is open from, be it May 1st to October 31st per se.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. Through you, it's the policeman in me. 5.8, no person shall consume or use glass containers. Just wondering how we're going to enforce that one.
That's a good question. Through your worship, the intent behind the glass containers is with regards mainly to the spray in the swim platforms or the swim areas, the, what are they called? Splash pads, sorry, the splash pad areas. So if someone were to use a glass bottle in that area and it happens to drop and break, we would have to shut down the whole facility, drain the water, make sure it's clear because everyone's utilizing that area with bare feet, and it would be obviously a very dangerous situation, especially for youngsters. So we want to try and discourage that. So hopefully with proper signage, that will discourage the behavior in the beginning to prevent any mishaps from that happening.
Second one, Your Worship, if you don't mind. And this is, again, having gone through this before, I bring your attention to 7.3.6. Swim, bathe, or wade without proper swim attire. Having dealt with this before, I just want to make sure I understand what the definition of proper swim attire is, because tomato, tomato. There's all kinds of different things that people wear that's, whether it's culturally appropriate or I need sun, which I don't, but I just want to make sure that having gone through this before in the early 90s with some of the legislative changes, that we're aware of whose definition is proper swim attire and where is it. That's what I need to know. Thank you, sir.
Again, very good question, through your worship. We want to focus, we obviously are very respective of the differences in what is considered proper attire. The focus of this is we don't want someone that's fully clothed in their work clothes that are covered in soot or whatever, or debris, to jump into a pool, and all of that debris and all that stuff falls off into the pool and contaminates that pool or splash pad area because they want to cool off. So we want to make sure that they have proper attire that's not fully clothed, work clothes, things of that nature. And again, we're using this as an opportunity for education. So any officer, if a complaint was received, the officer responding would use it as a teachable moment to explain what the reasoning is behind this and why we discourage the behavior of using, being fully clothed like that. But being culturally, obviously, respective and just being respectful of the nature of people, how comfortable they feel with whatever they wear in that type of environment.
Thank you, Worship. In my experience as a young copper downtown Windsor, nobody was fully clothed. That's, and again, that's where I'm going, because that's the definition that has the potential in my mind to create confrontation between my family and that family, or this person and that person. I just want to bring that up, having gone through it myself directly, to make sure that appropriate attire varies from person to person, circumstance, and situation. And I just want to make sure that we take into account all of the amendments to all applicable legislation and rights of peoples as they may bathe, be in a park, or in public. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Burns?
Yes, through your worship. So what can I do that I couldn't do yesterday in a park? Because it looks like I can hardly do anything. I can't go in there with my kids in a picnic basket with a little wee barbecue like I could before and turn the radio on and not bother anybody. Because there's a lot of these and those and don'ts. So I would just like to know the difference between what we had, very broad-minded, and where we're going, if that's appropriate. Thank you.
Excellent question, through your worship. So during the process of the collaboration, I did sit down with members of all those different departments, put all their concerns together in one package. So what is before you today is a lot of the things that are already in place. We just put it in one place. So if you were to use a park or an open space and you want to know what you can and can't do, we just put everything in one place rather than having to go to 5 different bylaws in order to figure out what you're able and not able to do. So some of the language in here is obviously, is hard to understand. So the communication to the public will be different, will be a lot easier to understand. So with regards to the park, you're still more than welcome to go have a picnic. We're looking at larger organized activities where there may be conflicts with areas that have been reserved by members of the public to use the pavilion, for instance, and someone is already there. So we want to encourage people to make contact with Culture and Recreation. They may not necessarily need a permit, but as long as we know that they're using that area, we may want to direct resources there afterwards in order to do garbage cleanup or things of that nature to make sure that the area is tidy. If we don't know that they're there, then we may not direct the resources there. So it's not necessarily you need a permit for everything. It's more of a, let us know what you're up to, and if we warrant the response of sending out resources in order to deal with those issues, we can. But basically, there's nothing in here that you couldn't do before. I just basically put everything in a nice little bow and put a bow on it and submitted it as is. There's a few things that, you know, maybe were never written down before, but so we kind of tried to put everything together. But obviously, the public education portion will be a lot easier to understand, and there'll be a public information or an education portion that would follow as well if adopted.
Thank you. And just to follow up, so in other words, in my neighborhood, which is Golfview, we have a little park there that only basically most of my street uses. We have an Easter egg hunt on the Saturday before Easter. That would still be allowed, or do we have to call for and let Parks and Rec know? And I'm sure there's hundreds of other events like this that go on, so that's my concern. What is your recommendation in that situation?
Yeah, through your worship. No, those are definitely encouraged. There would not be any permitting requirement. We want to encourage everyone to use the parks as they normally do. We just want to give the officers the enforcement capability and the education, the ability to educate. So what we want to take away from this is it's not necessarily we want to go start writing tickets or penalty notices to people. We want to be able to educate them, but the part of the education process is directing them to a piece of legislation like this bylaw so we can reference. So we can say that in this section it states this, so in the future. So we want to make sure that people are just educated, but typically behavior or parties like that or things of that nature with the Easter egg hunt, those things are going to go and continue to go on, and we'll never know about it, and we don't need to know about it. We just want people to enjoy the parks.
Thank you. You really are Santa Claus with a bow.
Councilor Riccio Spagnuolo.
Thank you, through you to Mr. Sassine. So a couple of my questions were already answered, but I do have one. So if a family wanted to go do a picnic or host a picnic, just last minute, let's go have a picnic, but there was already, say, a large gathering of a corporate event, or would they be asked to leave or move the location? Like, how does that work? Because I know you had mentioned, you know, if they can send a courtesy to, just so then you have your officers out there. That always doesn't work, right? Because sometimes it's just a last minute, it's a Saturday, let's go have a picnic, or let's have a family soccer game at the park. How does that work? Because I know we're going to get questions on these type of questions, so if you were able to just guide us so then the public can hear. Thank you.
Excellent question. Through your worship. So those types of activities, if there's a larger event and they have the pavilion, let's say, for instance, booked, they'll have access to that, whatever event that they have through Culture and Recreation. Anyone that's showing up, that if an area is already booked or someone isn't in use, they're more than welcome to use any other portion of the park for that purpose. They don't require any permitting or anything like that. It's more of the areas that have increased usability. So the pavilion, it's covered from the shelter, from the weather, so it's a more sought-after area. We just want to prevent any type of confrontation that may be. So if there's a group that's in there and they have not notified Culture and Recreation, and a group that does have a permit shows up, that there's not that potential confrontation of, hey, we have a permit, you don't, get out of here, and things of that nature. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So this helps guide culture and recreation as well, and with the staff, so they have something to lean on as well, so they can educate the public with regards to, this is a great idea to let us know if you want to do it. You know, obviously, if it's a party of 5, you're not going to consume the whole pavilion, but for larger parties is the main thing, where it's an organized activity.
Any other questions or comments? There being none, the recommendation is that the report of the Supervisor of Bylaw Enforcement dated October 31st, 2025, PD-46-2025 regarding use of parks be received, and that bylaw 2025-097, a bylaw to regulate the use of parks, be adopted as amended at the bylaw stage of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Segan. All in favor? And that carries. Item 3, the regulate off-road vehicles bylaw. Mr. Sassine.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this is the final one, I promise, so you'll be done with me after this, this third item. But the third item is the bylaw to regulate off-road vehicles. The off-road vehicle bylaw was developed in response to an increase in public complaints regarding the use of off-road vehicles on municipal roads, trails, and parks. Implementing an off-road vehicle bylaw will provide significant benefits for public safety, environmental protection, and overall community well-being. By regulating off-road vehicle use, the bylaw helps reduce the risk of accidents by minimizing damage, also minimizing damage to sensitive ecosystems, and prevents harm to public property. It also helps bridge any enforcement gaps that are found, that are not found in the current Highway Traffic Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of council. Deputy Mayor Capata.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Just one question on adjacent property. I understand the reason why, and I had it, and I'm just going back and forth between the Off-Road Motor Vehicles Act again. So if I was the young copper that I would have been, I think it's section 2.5 that talks about no person shall operate an off-road motor vehicle on any property adjacent to school between the hours of 8 to 4:30 during the school year. So I live next to a school. I've got 2.5 acres. I can't do it on the weekend because that's what I'm taking from that.
Very good question. Through you, Your Worship. No, if you own the private property adjacent to the school, you would be permitted to use it. We want to discourage people from using excessive use adjacent to schools to disrupt those activities in the school. So there is a section also in there with regards to adjacent to places of worship, funeral homes, things of that nature as well. So we want to ensure that people have the right to use their off-road vehicles on their property, but in a manner that's respectful to what's happening around them. But again, this is all for public education and also something as an enforcement tool for the officers to use if responding, but we're hoping that it doesn't come to that.
Subsequent, and I understand that. I'm a little bit concerned that I have a large piece of property next to a school for education or anything. This says I can't do it from September to June. School does not operate on the weekend, so I can't take my ATV on my own property without violating a town bylaw because school is in session even though there's no class. My suggestion, and I understand, please, in 2.4, you said when services are in progress. I might ask if 2.5 when school is in progress. That's it. I just know what's going to happen if I had a large 10-acre piece of property and have to be adjacent to a school and wanted to be the good citizen following all the rules and regulations. So I'm just going to throw that out to you for future consideration.
Okay. Councillor Rowe.
Just a quick question, just because I know that there often are a lot of complaints about the rogue vehicles that make it out on the road and how people want them, penalized right away. I'm just wondering how this is going to work with AMPS. I mean, obviously, when people are out there doing things that they know are wrong, how will that relate to our AMPS program? Do we have to make an amendment to add it into the AMPS program? I'm just wondering how that would work.
Thank you for the question. Through your worship, yes, there is a schedule that will be coming forward if this moves forward and is adopted to make an amendment to the AMPS bylaw to include this as well in there. So there'll be penalty notice that are issued directly to the person related to the AMPS bylaw. So it'll be covered under the current AMPS bylaw as it stands.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Councillor Carrick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you. So I guess I'm just looking here, and I don't see anything about dirt bikes or anything, two-wheel dirt bikes or anything like that. I see four-wheel, six-wheel. Did I miss it? No tracks, ground seats. I just wondered if that would apply the same?
So in the definition, through your worship, in the definition portion, I believe it's 4 under off-road vehicle. It's has a steering wheel, has 2 wheels. Yeah, so it's covered there.
Okay, so that would be basically anything with 2 wheels, motorbike or cross motor or whatever, right? Okay.
That's correct, yes.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Last one again. I wish I had my old ticket book. I don't see you mentioning golf cars, because the province of Ontario is currently doing, can't call them golf carts anymore, golf car experimentation in other municipalities. And I know that they don't fall in under the Motor Vehicle Act, but I have seen a couple of these golf cars prohibited on our highways, which they are, and not allowed unless the municipality enters into that special agreement that other municipalities have done with the province of Ontario. Just, were golf cars considered in this? I don't want to call them carts because that's the improper term. So I just want to make sure that golf cars are prohibited in the area of LaSalle and that this bylaw will allow enforcement.
Yes, they are prohibited in the municipality of LaSalle. It would require, obviously, provincial a blessing from the province and the MTO and an amendment to that in order to permit them. So yes, they are considered prohibited in all the areas mentioned in this bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Recommendations that the report of the Supervisor of Bylaw Enforcement dated October 31st, 2025, PD-45-2025 regarding regulated off-road vehicles bylaw be received, and that bylaw 2025-096, a bylaw to regulate off-road vehicles, be adopted at the bylaw stage of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, support by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Our next one is Front Road Secondary Plan and Environmental Assessment. I have the Director of Planning and Development, Ms. Beggs, as well as the Director of Public Works, Mr. Osborne. I believe, Jonathan, no? She's got her hand on the button. I'm not, yeah, Mrs. Beggs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. We're officially taking Mr. Sassine out of the hot seat, so I'll take over. Good job, Rob. We have a quick presentation that we'd like to share with council. We've talked a little bit about this as a concept and about us as a special project that we're going to be undertaking, but I feel like it warrants a little bit more context and a little bit more background so that council can understand sort of where it came from and why it is that we're going down with this path. So in order to do that, we'll just switch to the next slide. So this is our current policy framework that we have in our existing official plan. And this is the framework that guides decision-making in the waterfront district designation today. And so I'm going to do something that's a bit petulant, and I'm going to go through and read this because words in planning are very important. So the waterfront district designation, which is established on the image to the right and outlined in blue, essentially is bounded by Ream Road to the north and Gary Street to the south. And so what our current policy context says is that this designation is recognized as an area that requires revitalization. The OP promotes the creation of a vibrant, pedestrian, and transit-oriented place through targeted investments and strategic investment in infrastructure, with particular attention to urban design, parking, and waterfront access along this identified stretch of the road. It's expected that lands within this designation will be redeveloped with an array of compatible land uses, including marine and marine-related uses, retail and service commercial uses, mid-rise and high-rise residential uses, public open spaces, as well as institutional and community uses. This designation is expected to accommodate higher density intensity development while including a broad mix of land uses that support investment in transit and the achievement of complete communities. So while that may say a lot of things, it's a really good start. I think we need to, what we've realized the more that we do along Front Road is that we need to go a little bit deeper. We need some additional insight, guidance, and policy development in order for us to make land use planning decisions, informed land use planning decisions along this corridor. This policy framework also needs to be updated so that it's consistent with the current provincial policy statement, which was recently approved and adopted in 2024. And, you know, we also need to be keen towards the efforts the province is currently making to streamline development approvals. So we need to integrate some additional policy language that helps to fast track approvals and helps to streamline some things. So that's an opportunity here that we have going down this secondary plan process. But if we flip to the next slide, another impetus for us to undertake this study is that we have a lot of interest along Front Road. We have, this is a bit of a collage that we put together of some different images. And so we have the historic Detroit River, which is recognized as culturally significant. We also have a provincially significant wetland along the Front Road area. So those are two really important considerations that warrant preservation and protection. We also have a lot of traffic along Front Road. And I think, you know, we've had some targeted conversations at the senior leadership level to talk about, you know, what are we trying to achieve along Front Road, and, you know, what are we doing with our investment? And we want to make sure that we're creating an attractive redevelopment opportunity here, and that we're creating a destination for people to come to. And so integral to that, you know, the creation of that destination is the ability to slow down traffic along Front Road. So we want to investigate the opportunity for that. So that's a significant component of the study as well. We also have some existing, you know, I won't say historic buildings, but some culturally significant buildings in that area that warrant further investigation and study. And this is an opportunity to look at that as well. We know we need to do more in the space of active transportation along this corridor. We know we need to promote a pedestrian-oriented environment, and we need to make this particular corridor more human-centered. So those are some things that we would look at through this study as well. The diagram in the middle, or the graphic in the middle, just reinforces the notion that this is targeted as an opportunity for redevelopment and revitalization. And what that means is taking underutilized parcels of land, whether it's through a vacant parcel or an underutilized building on an existing site that has more potential, we are targeting this area for regeneration. And then also, of course, because the municipalities has invested so significantly in LaSalle Landing, we want to make sure that anything that we put in place in terms of a policy framework complements the municipal investment that we've made along the waterfront. So those are some of the competing interests that we're trying to manage and navigate, and we want to make sure that we're not at cross purposes when we go to approve redevelopment, that we don't undermine or jeopardize what it is that we're trying to achieve. So if we go to the next slide, we came across this opportunity, and actually it was Mr. Mara's idea. I have to give him credit for this. But it was a combined legislative approach that essentially takes the legislation under the Planning Act, takes the exercise under the Planning Act of a secondary plan and the exercise under the Environmental Assessment Act as the EA exercise, rather, and integrates the two. And so it's used typically when one outcome informs another. So it allows us to explore broader land use planning goals in the context of the infrastructure needs. So essentially it combines you know, the interests of land use planning along with the engineering considerations and interests in infrastructure that you know, it's a bit of a symbiotic relationship. We have to make sure that whatever we're doing from a land use planning perspective is complemented by the engineering side of things as well. And so it, of course, also helps to streamline public consultation and has a lot of other related project efficiencies because you're combining and integrating the two processes together. So on the secondary plan side, we'll just go through the goals quickly of what this Front Road secondary plan would try to achieve. These are some of the directions, the goals, directions, and objectives that we would be looking for out of this exercise. And then Mr. Osborne will highlight some of the EA considerations that you know, he's going to target through this exercise as well. So we want to develop land use goals and policies that focus on advancing the strategic outcomes. So we recently undertook an update to our strategic plan, and so we want to make sure that we use this as an opportunity to advance some of those objectives that are already outlined in the strategic plan update. We want to ensure land use planning is informed by natural heritage, cultural heritage, and engineering considerations in a coordinated way, and that is exactly what this integrated combined approach allows us to do. We want to provide opportunities for community consultation and stakeholder engagement, and that is a cornerstone of the Planning Act, as well as the provincial policy statement. So we want to make sure we leverage those opportunities. We also want to make sure we're setting a growth management direction that's in keeping with the municipality's strategic goals and any economic development priorities or objectives that the municipality has. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jonathan.
Thank you. I'm here to worry about traffic. So on the environmental assessment side, we're going to be exploring the form and function of the Front Road corridor to make sure it supports the redevelopment opportunities, but as well the traffic needs in the network in the surrounding area. So we'll be analyzing the existing traffic system and patterns and numbers to ensure we come up with some alternative solutions and a recommended solution out of an EA. We'll be confirming the functional servicing as part of the EA and kind of secondary plan as we do in a secondary plan, and look at making sure that our servicing will support the redevelopment opportunities. And as mentioned before, we're also going to be looking heavily at the active transportation side of the corridor, as well as the surrounding area to ensure we have the proper connections to the corridor. I think that's something we have a bit of, but there's some gaps in the system as well when it comes to connection to the corridor. And then also look at some of the parking needs and possible recommendations to support redevelopment in the area. So just to reiterate, like combining the secondary plan and the EA, really make sure that we're going to be consistent with what we're looking to achieve from the redevelopment side and from a transportation infrastructure side. And then just looking at it through the lens of our strategic plan, and I'll read the little nugget from the strategic plan under economic and community vibrancy, to create the conditions to encourage local investment, diversify economic growth, and foster safe and dynamic neighborhoods that attract and retain local businesses. So that's really something that's important to the town as identified in the strategic plan. So we think that this project is really going to go a long way in that directive. So to date, here we go. To date, we've kind of reviewed this approach with senior leadership, created an RFP that has gone out. That RFP is closed, and we were able to select a preferred consultant, which is the planning partnership. And then some of the items in the scope of work, we've already kind of gone through some of it, but there's really a lot of these things overlap, which would be done on an EA as well as the secondary plan. So the public consultations, First Nation engagement, natural heritage, archaeological, cultural heritage, all those things are done in both processes, so we'll be able to do it kind of combined. And then coming out of the secondary plan is going to be the zoning and the land use plan, and out of the EA is going to be the recommended infrastructure improvements, potential infrastructure improvements along Front Road. Okay, back to Goodman.
So just to summarize again, this combined integrated approach allows us to look at land use planning, broader land use planning goals in the context of infrastructure needs, satisfies both the requirements of the Planning Act and the Environmental Assessment Act, allows us to explore the redevelopment of the corridor, and like Jonathan said, evaluate the form and function of Front Road as an existing and important transportation spine in the municipality. One of the things that we requested in the RFP process was provisional pricing for a community improvement plan. We know that this is an important tool under the Planning Act to help incentivize redevelopment. So there are a lot of different programs and incentives that can be incorporated into a future CIP. And we know that council has had interest in this objective and in this project in the past. So we did request for provisional pricing. We're not here tonight to request, that those monies be spent on a future CIP, but it is earmarked in the event that council decides and administration provides that recommendation that we go down that path. But we would be back to council at a future date to recommend that we advance a CIP either through this particular consultant or if council wishes, we can prepare a standalone RFP for that work as well.
Okay, so in conclusion, we're recommending to move forward with the planning partnership for this combined project at a cost of $396,000. Just from a budget standpoint, when in the 2025 budget, there was $200,000 approved for an EA for Front Road. That was before the concept of doing a combined approach was really on our radar. So we proceeded with the RFP process, and as we expected, it came in quite a bit over budget, knowing that the scope of work has kind of drastically changed. So that price came out at $396,742. The funding would be from a combination of the roads reserve, the planning projects reserve, and development charges. And that concludes our presentation. Available for any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Carrick.
Through you, Your Worship. So I guess I'm looking for timelines of completion when we'd expect to start this.
So we would really get underway in the new year. It is a fairly large scope project. I would expect it would go well into 2027 would be my best guess at this point. Yep.
Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Just a couple questions. After some of us have been here for a little while and we've seen other reports and studies done, we have a transportation master plan that included the Front Road. Would this be designed, once we do an EA, to override those processes and those ideas that were presented in that plan?
In a way, yes, but I might frame it more as it's building upon what was recommended in the transportation master plan. In that plan, it called for a pilot project and suggested potentially a road diet, knowing that further detailed analysis needed to be done to know for sure that that was a permanent, something that could be done permanently. So this is, we're kind of skipping that pilot project step. We decided amongst administration that really might not be the fair way to assess the roadway. So this is maybe a more detailed way of going about looking at that.
Okay, and my second question is more planning related. The waterfront district, as the zones and the bylaw, the zoning bylaw, it seems to be very shallow on the east side of Front Road. Are we going to be looking at a possible OP amendment to expand that area so that there is more opportunity for redevelopment down the road?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Great point. That will be one of the first exercises that we do with the planning partnership, very similar to the exercise we undertook when we went through the Howard Bouffard secondary plan and we established the appropriate boundary. So we're going to do a boundary exercise right out of the gate to determine what the appropriate boundary is and making sure that we're mindful of that depth that we need in order to make the redevelopment feasible, right? We need to make sure that we have the appropriate space to make redevelopment feasible and economical.
All right, thank you. That's well welcomed.
Councillor Segan and then Deputy Mayor.
Yes, regarding, or through you, Mayor, regarding the traffic calming concept part of the plan here, and I know that the assessment will probably speak to that. I'm a little bit concerned about traffic calming when it comes to Front Road because we only have a few arteries, as everybody is aware of, and what the impact would be on Malden and Matchett, for instance, when you're going north-south. And I believe if my figures are right, about 20,000 cars a day, Front Road, is that about right? Traffic?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. That's about right. It's actually maybe even a touch higher than that. And that's definitely something that we'll be looking at is making sure that any solution will still function as it should from a traffic standpoint. But what we do know from some of the analysis we did on the Malden Road environmental assessment is that about 80% of the traffic on Front Road is pass-through traffic, non-LaSalle traffic, and about 20% of traffic is local traffic to LaSalle. So we want to, that's a pretty high ratio in pass-through traffic. So that's something we maybe want to change that ratio a bit, but also not wanting to negatively affect the other arteries that we do have, like you mentioned. So the traffic analysis will take all of that into account, and we'll have a recommended solution that is feasible from a traffic standpoint.
All right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship, through you, and I believe I already know this answer. Just a text that came in, will the public be able to see through stages? Will there be public consultation at each stage? And if there's an objection, will they be able to object? I know it's in the Planning Act. I just want to make sure that what I think I know is what I know. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, so all of the public consultation requirements under the legislation, both pieces of legislation will be followed, and there'll be the same mechanisms to appeal both documents that are under the legislation.
And again, through your worship, looking at the map that Mr. Osborne and yourself were talking of, my questions will be contacting everybody in the affected area so that they can participate, they know, and that their input is received by administration as we go forward.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding correctly.
Councillor Burns?
A follow-up on Councilor Reynolds' comment on the east side. Obviously, if we're going to expand that, we're taking homes out to do that because you have 150 feet or so on most of those developments. What considerations will there be to make what becomes the new development zone and the residential zone? And I assume some of that will come through consultations, but I'd hate to see a solid wall and then there's the houses at whatever we do. Thank you. And I have one further question after.
Through you, so just to be clear, we're not taking any homes out. We're just creating the conditions and the policy framework necessary to make redevelopment more feasible. So we're not removing any homes or taking any rights away from property owners. We're just laying the groundwork that's appropriate if and when those properties do want to redevelop. Just to your second point about compatibility, we're obligated under the Planning Act to ensure compatibility, and so there are different tests, different policies that get applied, different mitigating techniques that get applied, like the angular plane, for example, is one of those mitigation measures. So that will all be incorporated into the policy component of the secondary plan.
I can follow up to that. Well, if you expand that blue line beyond where homes are, that's what I'm concerned about, because in a little bit of a strip mall, I'll call it, of 150 feet, you're not really going to develop much, but we don't need to debate that. The other question I have is, why aren't we looking down the whole gambit of the sewer to Victory and to Martin Lane? Are those future development areas as stage, I would assume this is stage one. So would from International to Martin Lane be stage two as an example, from there to Martin Lane, or to Victory first and then to Martin Lane? I'm particularly looking at the waterfront. You know, along there, I'm looking at the waterfront development. There's a lot of open land there, 10 or 12 acres, a lot of those parcels.
So back in, through you, Madam Mayor, back in 2018, when we adopted the comprehensive OP, that particular waterfront district designation was identified on the strength of it being the corridor from Reum to Gary. And so if an expansion to that is what gets proposed, that can certainly be entertained. But right now, we're only specifically looking at the area that's previously been identified.
Thank you.
Councillor Carrick.
Just the final comments. I think this is a necessary, not evil, but a necessary move forward we make a heck of an investment down there, and in order to continue to do it right, I'm very much supportive of this, and I think if it takes till 2027 to get it right, or 2028 even, I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? There being none. I'm very excited to see this come forward. We've talked for many years about a CPI, about changing zoning, trying to get more investment in that area, and I think it's perfect timing with what we've been doing at our property, and so I'm very excited to see this go forward, and hope that 2027 comes soon enough. It's not any later than that. And so there's a recommendation that the report of the Director of Planning and the Director of Public Works dated October 7, 2025, PD-44-2025 regarding the Front Road Secondary Plan and environmental assessment be received, and that the town undertake a Front Road Secondary Plan and environmental assessment project for the Front Road Corridor area at a cost of $396,742 plus HST to be completed by the planning partnership, and that the outstanding project costs be funded through a combination of the road reserve, planning projects reserve, and development charges. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support. Councillor Reno, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Item 5 is the LaSalle Awards of Excellence, and I'm going to speak on this as I drafted the report. So, as everyone is aware, several years ago, we hosted the Citizen of the Year event, and we did that successfully for many, many years. In the last few years, we noticed we were kind of getting a dwindling amount of applicants coming in, and the event itself had become a little bit stagnant, plus COVID hit, and so it's been on a hiatus, and so the thought is to create something that's more inclusive, something that includes sports, arts and culture, business and innovation, as well as our community awards that we had before, with some additional ones, including environmental stewardship. And so this event would be hosted at the LaSalle Event Center in April. It would be our first event like this with a new name called LaSalle Awards of Excellence. And it's just a really great way to bring the community together and to recognize some great individuals here that make our town so great. So that is what's put before you today. If you have any questions, I'll hopefully be able to answer them for you. If not, the recommendations at the report of the mayor for the Corporation of the Town of LaSalle dated November 12, 2025, MA-01-2025 regarding LaSalle Awards of Excellence be received, and that council approve the establishment and delivery of LaSalle Awards of Excellence as the town's annual community recognition program, including allocation of municipal funding consistent with the historical support previously provided for the Citizen of the Year event. Moved by Councillor Segan, support. Deputy Mayor Capata, all in favor? And that carries. The consent agenda has 4 items. Are there any items that anybody would like to speak to directly?
I would just like the procurement one, I think it needs to be a correction. Item 3 is the electronic voting. I don't think it's $1 million. Looks like one extra figure, if that's in this part. If I put between the 1 and the 1, I have $1,151,083.90. So I think it's a typo.
That's correct. It's a typo. Definitely a typo.
There goes your magic award. Thank you. If that can be corrected, I have no other comments. Thank you.
Okay. Those corrections will be made. Any other comments on the consent agenda? I do have one under item 4, our summary of reports, and I was just wondering if we could get an updated timeline on item 1, which is the review of LaSalle boat ramp passes and parking, which was supposed to be Q3 of 2025. Just I expect as we blink, it's going to be March and people will be fishing.
Yes, the report is drafted, but we've been a little tied up the last couple weeks, our manager of parks. So I think it's either the meeting in December or the meeting in January that'll come forward.
Perfect, thank you very much. No other questions? If we can get a motion to receive the 4 items, moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Carrick, all in favor, and that carries. Committee matters, it's just the one item, which is the County Council highlights, November 5th, 2025, and that's just the County Council highlights be received. If there's any questions, if not, motion to receive, Deputy Mayor Capata, support by Councillor Segan, all in favor, and that carries. Any questions or statements by council members? Any notices of motion? We don't have any closed sessions to report, so we have bylaws, and we have 3 this evening, and that the following bylaws be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed. 2025-096 being a bylaw to regulate the use of off-road vehicles within the town of LaSalle. 2025-097 as amended being a bylaw for the use and regulation of parks and open space within the town of LaSalle. And 2028-098 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 8798 being a bylaw to regulate vehicular parking within the limits of the town of LaSalle. Moved by Councillor Reiss-Spagnolo, support by Councillor Carrick, all in favor, and that carries. Our confirmatory bylaw 2025-099 be given a first, second, third reading and finally passed. Moved by Councillor Reno, support by Councillor Segan, all in favor. That carries. Schedule of meetings are listed below. We hope you'll join us Thursday for our budget session, possibly Friday as well, and Friday night at the LaSalle Loop grand opening. Have a good night.